Welcome, everyone. We're thrilled that you are joining us today, especially given the beautiful weather. So I'm Susan Edgman-Levitan. I'm the Executive Director of the Stokel Center for Primary Care Innovation, and I will be your moderator today. So before we get started, I just want to share a few housekeeping rules. Everyone is muted to avoid any background noise that might interrupt our speaker. If you want to view the speaker on your full screen, you can go up to the top view button in the top right-hand corner, and you can adjust your screen so that you just see the speaker when they're speaking, or you're in the gallery view where you can see the speaker and everyone else on the call. If your picture becomes jumpy or out of sync, if you go down to the left-hand bottom corner, we recommend you stop your video because that will reduce the draw on your internet connection and it might improve the overall picture. For questions, and we really encourage you to ask questions, please use the chat feature, which is in the middle of the screen at the bottom. And I review all the questions as they come in, and I will pose them to Deputy Pratt when he finishes his presentation. And just a quick reminder to not share any personal medical information in the chat, because everything you put into the chat can be seen by all of us. So we just want to protect your privacy. So we look forward to all your questions, so don't be shy about putting them in the chat. And I am very pleased to introduce our speakers today. Our first speaker will be Dr. Matt Russell, who is the Director of Ambulatory Geriatric Medicine in the Division of Geriatric Medicine in our Geriatric Medicine practice. And I also want to introduce Deputy Mo Pratt, who is an Assistant Superintendent for the Essex County Sheriff's Department, and he's been with the department since 2006. Deputy Pratt has supervised the reintegration, classification, victim services, and sex offender areas. He is currently Director of Research and Statistics in Triad, which focuses on senior safety throughout Essex County. He is also on the Northeastern Massachusetts Law Enforcement Council Critical Incident Stress Management Team and serves on the department's Use of Force Review Board, K-9 Review Board, and Honor Guard. Deputy Pratt earned his BS in Political Science with a minor in Economics from Northeastern, and he has an MBA from Suffolk University and a Master's in Liberal Arts from Harvard University. And in his spare time, he brings his energy as an endurance athlete to his work and has completed more than 60 endurance events, winning numerous ultra marathons. So I think we are very fortunate to have Deputy Pratt with us today, sharing how we can all avoid being involved in any kind of fraudulent scams. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Russell.
Thank you, Susan. So good afternoon, everybody. It's nice and warm outside, and hopefully we're staying well hydrated and in air conditioning. There is a heat advisory for poor quality air. So this is the day to make sure you're sitting under a nice shady tree, drinking a nice glass of water rather than outside in the garden doing a lot of work. A lot of pollen and a lot of heat. So just that's my little geriatric medicine recommendation. Sorry. Siri is talking to me about how to stay under a tree right now, so I have to figure that out. So the second thing I'd just like to remind folks is that this spring we are recommending folks get a repeat COVID booster. And many of us received the booster back in the autumn. And the one that we would be receiving now if we're over the age of 65 is the same booster. And again, it's just recommended for people age 65 and over every 4 to 6 months. So if you have not received the shot since the autumn, definitely go and get it. You can have between 4 and 6 months between vaccines if you would like. If you have had COVID, the recommendation is to have the vaccine 2 to 3 months after the COVID, because people who have had COVID and did not get vaccinated are more likely to get it again. And that just speaks to the strength of our vaccines. Now on to the topic that we're going to be speaking about today. It used to be that scams were really heavily in person, and whether it's someone coming to your door pretending to be someone they're not, or calling you on your landline during the day when people are often just least suspecting, it's now invaded a lot of areas of our lives, from cell phones to social media to emails, and being on the alert for it and not feeling petrified, and also knowing that these problems are often remediable, are fixable, is really reassuring. So I'm very excited to present Deputy Pratt as he goes forward in telling us how to stay safe from any kind of scams coming at us from whichever direction. Thanks, Deputy Pratt.
Deputy Pratt, yeah,
Thank
please
you.
share your screen.
Okay, so can everybody see that screen now?
Yes, it needs to be in
Okay.
presentation mode. Great.
Here we are. Is that good for everybody?
Yes,
Oh, wonderful.
perfect.
Okay. Dr. Russell, thank you. That was very useful information. And Susan, thank you for that, the kind introduction. I think that my dad would have liked that introduction, and my mom would have believed it. So, on to the presentation of scams. What we'll do is I'll throw out a couple of actual cases. We'll talk about some statistics regarding scams, just a couple of really pertinent statistics. We'll go over some scams, and in this presentation, we'll present the scam, and then we'll present how to either prevent it, mostly prevent it. And as Dr. Russell said, most of these scams, once they're perpetrated on you, they are fixable. So you know, have peace of mind with that. And then we'll talk about overall prevention, and then we'll open it up to questions. So just last year, the Essex County District Attorney Paul Tucker got a call from his, quote, grandson that he had been in an accident. So Paul Tucker is the former chief of police over in Salem. He was a state rep, and now he's district attorney. So they absolutely picked the wrong person to call. But I think that folks are fairly familiar with the grandson scam, which we'll talk about later on. Also recently, a Linfield woman lost almost $1 million to remove curses from her life. And then the romance scams are fairly popular. In 2021, a Newton attorney lost $2.5 million from a romance scam. With this poor woman, she had cancer at the time, and she was quite ill. And she made friends with this fella. His name was Jim. And Jim was in love with her, but unfortunately he couldn't come to see her because he had some inventory issues at work. So he needed some money, so she helped him with that. And then it spirals from there. And you know, here's an attorney who's obviously well educated, but she was taken for $2.5 million. And then also recently, a Marblehead woman lost $100,000 again on a romance scam. So the scammers hit us when we're vulnerable, and we're all vulnerable at some point, including myself. Absolutely, I could be approached and get trapped. So don't feel bad if you get caught. We're going to talk about how to prevent it. Okay, so statistics most likely to be reported by older adults are business imposters, tech support. Again, the old prize sweepstakes lottery, you've won $1 million. We just need $5,000 to process your winnings. Family and friends imposters. Just last year, the FBI Internet Crime Complaint Center had over 880,000 complaints with a potential loss of $12.5 billion. And if I were to ask people if they think this is overreported or underreported, everybody knows this is underreported, and primarily because people are too embarrassed to report it, but also because maybe 5% of the people think that they're going to get their money back because it was my nephew and he's hit on hard times, but he's going to pay me back. It was my neighbor's son and he's going to pay me back, or something like that. So there are two pieces here. First of all, we have to be skeptical of anything that presents itself in a unique situation like that. Somebody approaches you and says, hey, I got a great investment opportunity. Or, you know what, my son is just starting out and he's working for Fidelity. You want to give him your account. Anything that if your intuition tells you that something's up, pay attention to your intuition. Okay, so on to the scams, personal finances. Someone just flat out lies to you to give them money. This is a little different than somebody that originally thought they would pay you back. So you lend somebody, hey, can you give me $300 till payday? And you give them the money. They really think that they're going to pay you back, but then they don't. And they kind of lose interest and they forget about paying you back. That's actually not a scam. That's a person with bad integrity, poor character, etc. But they didn't set out to scam you. The scam is somebody says to you, hey, if you give me $500, I'm going to turn it into $1,000 because I have a wonderful investment opportunity. Or can you give me $500? I lost my wallet and it had $500 in it. Can you help me out? Things like that. Just last year, we had a relative die. Just after the wake and after the funeral, one of my cousins hit up my brother and said, hey, Phil, if you can just give me, if you can give me $300 to make my truck payment, I'll give you the $300 back. You know what we can do? Just give me a voided check of yours and I'll put the money directly into your account. This is our cousin. So, you can suspect anybody. So that's when somebody gives you money, they get a hold of your account without authorization. They get a checkbook. They get a copy of your check. They get your bank information. That's why if we get a check in the mail, we always want to be leery. We don't want to just try to cash that check because as it gets processed, the bad guys get a hold of your bank information. And the third part of this is somebody just forges your signature, whether it's physical signature or electronic signature. So prevention. Secure your checkbook and valuables. You can get a fairly inexpensive safe at Home Depot or Staples or somewhere like that. It has holes in the bottom. You screw it to the floor in your closet. Voila, you have a wonderful place to keep your valuables. Or instead of securing your checkbook, you can go electronic and pay a lot of your bills electronically. That eliminates this. I always suggest establishing a relationship with your bank, whether it's a local bank or a larger bank, but you're dealing with a local branch. If something happens, that's not the time to start calling that 1-800 number and getting transferred all over the country. You want to be able to call Joe or Sue or somebody at that bank and boom, they take care of you. That is maybe the most important piece you'll get today. Establish a relationship. Be cautious of strangers. Again, if somebody approaches you, your radar should go up. A collateral relationship is one step removed. It's not somebody you work with, but rather it's their nephew that you just happened to meet last week at a cookout, but suddenly he has an investment opportunity for you. You always want to be leery of those collateral relationships. In his book, The Gift of Fear, Gavin de Becker called these forced relationships. I start using terms like, we got to get you a better investment. We got to get you set up with an account. We got to get you set up. I was using, whoa, when did it become we? So we always want to be leery of that. Tech support, big thing these days, right? By phone, email, or pop-up ads. You have a virus, but don't worry, we're going to fix it. And you give them access to your computer. The low-level folks will get access to your computer. They'll hit and run. They'll disappear right in the middle of a conversation. The little more advanced, they'll stay with you on the phone. They'll get your money, they'll transfer funds, and then they'll stay with you an extra 5 minutes. Hey, you know what? I was able to fix your computer. The good news is you're all set. I'm going to transfer the funds back now that we put your funds in a secure account. I'm going to transfer them back right now. But as you know, those funds won't hit your account until midnight tonight. So now they give themselves a little leeway. So that you can't tell that they've scammed you maybe for 24 hours. So prevention. Don't answer phone numbers that you don't know. I know that the bad guys can still change their settings, and they can go in and make it look like they're calling from the Essex County Sheriff's Department or the state police or the IRS, but they aren't. So I do take a chance. If I recognize the number, I do pick up. But if you don't recognize the number, I strongly suggest you don't pick up the phone. If you do pick up the phone and you know it's a scammer, hang up. Don't try to match wits with these folks. They're really, really good at what they do. I know that, like, for instance, Dr. Russell is a doctor. I'm sure he's very good at what he does. I'm a deputy sheriff. I'm really good at what I do. These folks do this for a living. Don't try to match wits with them, because they will beat you. I had one fella, he got the grandson call, and the fella acted like he was his grandson. And the gentleman, the good guy, said to the bad guy, well, my son plays baseball for UNH. My grandson, Mike, plays baseball for UNH. And right now they're down in Florida at spring training. So I know this isn't him. But what that person inadvertently did was he gave the bad guy probably 4 or 5 pieces of information without knowing it. So we never want to be cute with them. Those days are over. 20 years ago, you could be cute with them and joke around with them, insult them, say whatever you want. These days, especially with artificial intelligence, all they need is a snippet of your voice, and they can manipulate that however they want. So we always just want to hang up. You get an email. Now, there's a few different ways you can do this, but even if you open the email, you're probably going to be okay. Then you hover over the name that sent it to you, and it will actually tell you who sent it. So the email is IRS at linfieldmassus.gov. Wow, pretty impressive. But I hover over it, I have my mouse over it, and I see it's sent from Joey Jones in Peabody. Oh, okay. The best thing is, don't open an email if you don't know who it's from. But even if you open it, then you can hover it and see who it's from. If you hit forward, you can get some more information. But again, it's when we start clicking on the attachments to the email that the real damage is done. So if you make a mistake and you open an email, just close it. Okay. If you get an email that says your computer, your account, have been compromised, your vehicle is being recalled, whatever it is, we have your son in the hospital, whatever it is, don't respond to that. You want to go on the website and get the contact information yourself. So if I get a notice from Danvers Ford and it says, Mo, your vehicle is being recalled, good news, for only $500 we can fix this issue. That sounds like a scam to me. So I'm going to go on the internet, I'm going to get the number for Danvers Ford, and I'm going to call them myself. Okay. Same if you get something from the IRS, the state police, the Essex County Sheriff's Department. Could it be that somebody somehow gets a list of all the places that I've presented in the past year? Sure, they go to Facebook and they start looking at the Sheriff's Department. So now they find out that I presented at the Peabody Senior Center, and they start calling. We're from the Peabody Senior Center. Okay, well, if you get that message, again, you want to call the place yourself. Okay. A wonderful, wonderful website, ic3.gov. This is the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center. So in the old days, 10 years ago, if the bad guys did get a hold of your funds and they transferred funds away from your account or out of your account, there wasn't anything you could do. These days, there's a chance.
Mo, I'm just going to interrupt you. I think you need to advance your slide.
We're on tech support now?
Oh, if you're still on tech support, that's fine.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you. FBI, internet. So these days, the FBI, there's a possibility that they can start tracking your funds. So when the bad guys take your money and they transfer it offshore, and then they transfer it to Florida, and then they transfer it to wherever else they do, the FBI has a way of starting to track these funds, and they can actually intercept them and get them back to you. Not all the time, but there is a fair chance that they can do that. So if, God forbid, somebody does manipulate your funds or take the funds from you, you want to go to that website, ic3.gov. Government, police imposter. A lot of people get these letters or phone calls, maybe from the IRS saying, hey, you owe taxes. My experience is the IRS, they don't even return calls. They certainly don't make outgoing calls, right? The IRS is not going to call you. If you owe money from the IRS, they're going to send you a letter. If you get a letter, don't respond to that address or that phone number. Again, get the information on the internet yourself and then reach out to them. Police departments do not collect money, and you will never get arrested for an outstanding ticket. Outstanding tickets, sure, they might suspend your license or your registration. You're not going to get arrested for outstanding parking tickets. And again, two sides of the street. The police do their part, but they do not collect funds. So if you get a call saying you owe taxes, you owe parking tickets, you owe speeding tickets, hang up. Which brings me to another sub point, and that is, if you hang up on somebody, if you don't return their call, if somebody approaches you in a parking lot for money and you overreact, you use profanity, you hang up on somebody you shouldn't hang up on, you don't answer the door when somebody's at your door, but you should have answered the door, we can always fix it. We're all older Americans. We have a little bit of wiggle room here. So if you overreact to something, we can get over it, okay? We'll address that fact. Okay, prevention. IRS, as I said, do not call. We don't need to answer that phone. And again, if you get a letter from the IRS or your local police department or something like that that says you owe money, get the information yourself, reach out to them. By the way, I think most people know if they have an outstanding speeding ticket or, God forbid, an outstanding warrant. If the police call you and tell you have an outstanding warrant, we're going to come and arrest you unless you pay us. First of all, I think we all know if we have an outstanding warrant. And then, of course, if they send you a letter or something like that, like I said, you can reach out to them after you get the information yourself. So I've talked about the grandson, the niece, and nephew scam. I think most people are aware of this, but what it is somebody calls you and says, maybe generic, Grampy, this is your favorite grandson. Okay, well, my grandkids don't call me Grampy, they call me Papa or whatever it is, right? So there's your first tip. My favorite grandson, and they're hoping that you say, oh, Joey, and now that's their in, okay? If you get that call, simply hang up, okay? Because the way it goes is the good scammers will, hold on, the police officer wants to speak with you. Now the police officer is on the phone. Yeah, we arrested your grandson. He owes $5,000 bail. Hold on, the bail bondsman happens to be here. He'll talk to you, okay? A police officer really isn't going to get on the phone unless it's a crisis. For instance, there's a car accident, and I've seen this. There's a car accident. One of the people in the car accident is extremely, extremely upset. Yes, the officer will take the phone, talk to her spouse, his spouse, their mom, their dad, or something like that. Believe me, if somebody gets arrested, the police officer is not calling their parent looking for money. And I think we all know that. One of the final ones is door-to-door solicitations. Kind of scary these days because very seldom do people come knocking on our doors. It's not like it was 30 years ago. If somebody comes to your door soliciting, you don't have to open the door. Don't remain quiet because if they think nobody's home, they might try to break in. So you can say, who's there? What do you want? I always tell people when somebody knocks at your door at our age, really at any age, the best thing to do is answer the phone. Grab your cell phone if somebody knocks on your door, and then figure out what they want. At the very least, as it says here, somebody might try to give you the hard sell. Hey, we have extra hot top on our truck. We can pave your driveway for $500. Well, that turns into $800, and that can become violent. They can become aggressive. So you don't want to answer the door on that. At the worst, it could be somebody who does have a plan, and they do have a bad plan, and they're gonna, as soon as you open that door, they're gonna force their way in. I'm not trying to alarm anybody, but we don't owe anybody. If they come knocking on our door, you don't have to answer it. Now, you know, a 12-year-old girl's knocking on your door, her arms are full of cookies, and you can see her mother's out in the car. I'd take a chance on that, okay? But if you don't answer the door and, oh, you know what? It was the neighbor across the street. He's a brand new neighbor. He's a police officer. He's a deacon at his church. He had locked himself out of his new house. He needed your help, and you told him to get lost. That's okay. Again, we can fix that. Okay, so you always want to be careful when somebody's knocking on your door. Okay, so a prevention recap, as I said, it's okay to ignore calls or delete voicemails and emails. Throw away junk mail. Be careful of junk mail. Always open it, especially if it's from a bank or a finance company, because it could be that they're soliciting you because you have just bought your home. But I bought my home 30 years ago. Yeah, but somebody went to the registry of deeds, and they somehow, and this is a long story, but they somehow got your information and they refinanced your house. Okay, note the phone number and email address. If you do get something from somebody, that's fine. You want to make a note of that and maybe share it with the police. We never send cash, of course. Is it okay to wait 24 hours before acting? Sure it is. Absolutely. We don't need to rush into any bad situations. This next one is getting more popular, where we have a code word or a phrase with our loved ones. If there's something fishy going on and you want to tip them off, you can absolutely have a code word or a phrase. You want to make it a little tricky. What's your favorite color? 17 is the answer, you know, or something like that, so the bad guys can't guess it. Or a catchphrase. I walk into your kitchen, you've got something fishy's going on there, and I kind of know something fishy's going on, and I say to you, you know, how you doing? And you say to me, better than the Red Sox. Oh, okay, so we know a situation's going on. Again, if it's, oh my God, call 911, then that's what you're going to say. This is more of, I think there's an issue. Trust your intuition. Again, in his book, The Gift of Fear, Gavin DeBecker said, your intuition will never, ever, ever be wrong. It's when we override our intuition that we run into trouble. If your gut tells you, I don't know why, but something's going on here, I promise you, you're right. Trust your intuition. Share information with other people. You know, maybe folks you work with, your neighbors, your family. Hey, did this guy call you last night? Oh yeah, he called me too. Oh yeah, that's a scam. I say, however, you don't want to give out too much information. You don't want to share your personal account information. Be very guarded with your information. If you suspect fraud, first thing you want to do is call your local police department. Local PDs are great, and they all say the same thing. Call us, that's what we're here for. Call us, that's what we're here for. And they will help you. Again, maintain a relationship with your bank. IC3.gov is a wonderful resource. And I'll end on, if it sounds too good to be true, we all know that. It probably is. Okay. So that's the end of my formal presentation. And I guess are we going to open it up to questions?
Yes. So
Okay.
why don't, if you could stop sharing, and yeah, if you could stop sharing your screen.
Okay, sure. There we are.
Great. Thank you.
My pleasure.
So we did get a question about who and how do you report? You mentioned this a few times, and I am going to ask you to speak a little slower. Some of us aren't as fast to hear everything you're saying. So if you could just speak a little bit slower, that would be helpful. But we did get a question about, how do you report? Do you just call the police? Do you call the IRS? Say a little bit more about that.
Sure, and I will talk a little slower. And it's funny, I think most people that work at this department, they all kind of talk like I do. So, but I'll talk a little slower. So there's a couple of pieces. The first thing you want to do is call your local police department, because as well versed as I think I am in scams, your local police department is on the cutting edge. They are going to be able to help you. They usually have resources. Within their department. They always have connections to other agencies, and they always have, like I just said, the local flavor as to what's going on. You call them and say, this happened. Yep, we're on it. We know who it is. They've hit 5 people in the area. We're going to take care of it. Okay, that's number one, is call them. Number 2 is contact the agency through the agency that you've been scammed through. In other words, I went and I applied for a loan at a local bank, and somehow somebody got my information. Okay, doesn't take rocket science to know the issue is with the bank. So after you contact the police, you want to contact the bank. Sometimes a bank does business with a third party, and that's where the issue is. They do business without getting into specifics, but I do business through, I work with a business that sends their paperwork to the bank. A lot of times it's that middle individual or that middle business that is the issue. So you always want to share all your info, everything, even if you don't think it's relevant, share it with the police, and then share it with the bank, the IRS, the car dealership, or wherever you've been scammed through. And the third piece is, you should do this once a year anyway, get a copy of your credit report. See what damage has been done. Because a lot of times, if you really have been scammed, it's going to show up on your credit report. That person has gone and got new credit cards. They've applied for a mortgage or something like that.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask a question myself.
Yes.
I have recently been bombarded with scam phone calls. And I have a thing on my phone that identifies a call that could be a potential scam. And can you say a little bit about how to protect yourself from that? And one thing that you mentioned that got my attention was why it's so important to never answer those calls, because they hear your voice. So if you could say a little bit more, and then they can use your voice. If you could say a little bit more about that.
Sure. Not too long ago, you could get on a do not call list. That really doesn't help anymore. The bad guys are going to call you, and they're going to keep calling you. So you block that number. The bad guys don't even go through the problem of calling you from a different number. Their computer system actually takes your number and just dumps it to another number that they call from. And this is all automated. So they were calling you from this number. You blocked it, no problem. As soon as they get notification of block, their system takes it, boom, and now you get called from this number. So it's very difficult. You want to keep blocking those numbers, and you don't want to answer. Because just 5 years ago, if you answer the phone and they said, is this Mo Pratt? And I said, yes, they could use that word yes and start applying it. We have a recording where we said, do you want to refinance through us? And you said, yes. Do you want a credit card? You said, yes. May we have access to your account? You said, yes. Just in the last 5 years, artificial intelligence has become so acute and so advanced that they only need a few words from you, and they can use your voice to have you say anything that you want. Hi, this is Mo Pratt. Would you please take over my loan? I'd like to refinance through you. Please call me back. They can make that up. There are a couple of, I forget the politician, maybe somebody else might know, maybe Nancy Pelosi. They had a recording of her, a video of her, and they said she was intoxicated. She wasn't. They just altered her speech this much, and it sounded like she was intoxicated. There's a video of Tom Cruise coming out, speaks to the camera, so on and so forth. Not 1 second of that is real. It's all artificial intelligence. So they're really good. You can imagine what they can do with our voices. So we always just want to hang up. Don't try to match wits with them. Don't try to give them anything.
Okay. Another question is, does locking your credit report help prevent scams?
Yes. Yes, it does. Yep. Because what happens is you can get, there's a couple of different things. First of all, you can get notified if somebody does apply for credit in your name. So that's tremendous right there. That's probably the biggest thing. Yeah, I guess that would be really the biggest thing on that.
And how do you lock your credit card or your credit report?
If you contact, there are 3 credit agencies. And if you go online, you can contact them directly.
Okay. Can you say what those are?
I don't recall, I don't recall the three, and I have it somewhere, but I can email it to you.
Experian, Equifax. I just had to do this. Experian, Equifax, and I can't remember the third one. Oh, TransUnion. Diana, I
Yeah.
see you. I see you say, okay, thank you.
Thank you
Yeah.
all.
If you lock one of them, then that shuts down pretty much any hard credit inquiry, and your bank will call you, or if you're doing something, and they'll say you need to unlock your credit report. That's at least been my experience.
It's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Very, very helpful.
And maybe, Matt, could you put those names in the chat?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. And also, one of our participants is reminding people, and Mo, I'd like you to say a little bit more about this, because even in my own family, we've had people that got scammed pretty badly, and they were really embarrassed to tell anyone about it. And so can you say a little bit about why it's so important to not feel shamed or guilty or embarrassed if this happens to you, and why it's so important to report it?
Yes, they use the phrase put to sleep. Any of us can get put to sleep. It can be a quick hit where somebody entices you to do something you ordinarily wouldn't do, and in a moment of weakness or in a moment of trust, you do it. Or it could be that they wear you down over weeks or months or years, and they bring you into their trust, and you fall for their scam. So it could happen to any of us. As I said at the beginning, there were attorneys, there are doctors, there are correctional officers, there are police officers. Nobody is immune to this. Again, these folks are very good at what they do. It's not like, geez, I'm dumb, I fell for it. Oh, what a jerk, I fell for it. No, you trusted somebody. We're all, especially in our generation, that's what we grew up on, a handshake and trust. So do not be embarrassed. And the quicker you report it, the sooner the authorities can help you, first of all, stop the bad behavior and possibly get your funds back. But above all, do not be embarrassed. You're a victim. You're a victim.
Right, thank you. Are there any other questions? Oh, I also see, don't go to a bank to wire money to a friend in trouble, even if you think it's really your friend who needs the money. Can you say more about that? That's one, I personally know people that have been affected by that.
Yeah, and I'm going to cover the whole spectrum real quickly. If you get an email or even a phone call or something like that from one of your friends that says they need money, that's where I said stop. Right? We want to stop. If they need money right away, you know what? You still don't need to rush into that. You call them on the number that you know is their number. You talk to them, find out the issues. Then and only then, you think about lending the money. You want to make sure that it's, and I used to be in commercial lending, and I saw people steal money. And it was never, ever, ever the person you'd suspect. It was every time it happened, and I saw it. It was always a good person that had horrific circumstances, such as, I'm a good person. I've been the administrative assistant for 20 years, but you know what? My son got in really, really bad with a bad group of people, and they're going to break his legs if I don't give him $20,000. Guess what? That administrative assistant's taking the $20,000. So even if it's extreme circumstances, you always want to stop and think, even if it's for real, your friend really does need that money. But why? What's going on here? So it's okay to stop and wait. You don't need to rush into things.
Okay. Should people also contact their local council on aging?
Council on
About
Aging could,
scams?
yep, the senior center or the Council on Aging, they can be helpful. They're very good at a lot of things, and they may have resources. They themselves might not be able to help you. I work with all 34 cities and towns in Essex County. Different senior centers offer different things. There may be a couple out there that happen to have a scam expert that works there part-time or volunteers, or they have a connection, or they have a program. Absolutely a good suggestion, Susan, that they contact their senior center. Sure.
Okay. And so Mo, another question, and actually I've had this experience. Scammers that send an email and ask you to send money overseas as part of a larger investment opportunity, or, I mean, there are lots of different ways they frame it, but can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, again, that's one of those things that either they're tugging at your heartstrings. You know, we have to help. We're raising money for this, and sometimes they'll make it local too. It might be overseas, but it might be, geez, as you know, this family in Peabody's really having a tough time of it. We're collecting money for them. Again, if you really want to give, go on the website or contact the agency directly and find out if it's the real deal. Then and only then do you give. But I would say 100% of the time, when you get anything that's soliciting money, just delete it. Just delete it. If they really need money, again, you can look it up yourself. But anytime there's a solicitation for funds, you want to just delete and block that email.
Okay. Okay. So I don't think we have any more questions, but we do have a comment about asking you to just remind everybody to be alert, because these people are very sophisticated at manipulating us, and they know how to do it in many different ways. So, and actually we do have one more question. When do you need to change your bank account if you think you've been scammed?
Contact your bank right away. Banks these days have whole departments that are the fraud departments, and they are excellent at what they. I mean, they are on the cutting edge. They might even be ahead of law enforcement, because all banks do is deal with money. Police departments deal with everything, right? From a parking ticket to homicide. Banks just deal with protecting your money. If you think there's been fraud, you contact that bank right away. And I promise you that they will go into action.
All right,
I have a
thank
question
you.
about that, when I have a tough question, I call the banks.
Great. Great. Okay.
I thought
Dr.
I might,
Russell.
yeah, I thought I might just add a few things about this. Certainly, I would add myself to the list of esteemed people who have been scammed. And the nature of it was immediately an emotional hijack, because a family member was purported as being in a situation. And it was believable enough that it activated me. And I think that's the part where, if I can say from a neurophysiologic standpoint, when we feel hijacked, when we feel that high energy and can't focus, that is the warning sign that this is not something I should act on right away. This is the thing that I need to basically say, if it's a scam, you know, I'm gonna have to step away for a minute. And I have taken to, I unfortunately cannot not answer my phone, because I'm often paging colleagues, and I don't know that what their area code is. But I have taken to, in my off hours, if I'm getting paged, I answer with a very mute hello. And if I get a sense, I start crying on the phone. And I say, I'm sorry, it's really not a good time right now. And I click and follow. I've yet to have someone call me back. But I just think the minute they get their first words in, be mindful of, how am I feeling? Am I feeling like there's an emergency? Because it's not real. It's not real.
Yeah. Matt, we just got a question, Mo, that I think is very important. One of our participants just got an email before this town hall that they owe $890 for something. What should they do?
Okay, find out where the email is from. Don't delete it yet. Find out the agency that tells you you owe that money. Go on Google, get the contact information yourself, and contact that agency. Do I owe you $890? Do not respond to that email, or if they give you a phone number or an address, do not respond to that, number one. And number two, whoever this is and whatever agency it is, you probably know if you owe $890 to somebody. The exception would be escrow to your bank, something like that, real estate taxes, something that's a little obscure to the layperson like us. But other than that, you would know if you owe $890 to, you know, to an agency. So again, get the information, get the contact information yourself, contact that agency. Then once you determine it's a scam, contact your local police department.
And Mo, would this also be an instance where the person might want to just hover with their mouse over the sender
would,
to see?
Yeah, that's more when it's in the gray area that you want to do that, because you got to be careful with that. You could click on it or something like that. You could forward the email to your friends by mistake. So, you know, if this was a group of, you know, 20-year-olds, hover, you know what to do. You're probably like me, right? I'd click on it. I'd send it to the whole sheriff's department or something, you know? So I would say not right now. Don't do that. Just simply follow up by yourself.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
And Monique wants to remind everybody that our next town hall is going to be on June 11th at 2 p.m., which is a little bit later. And that is going to be, we're going to hear from the president of the MGB Hospital at Home program about that program, how it works, who's eligible for it, and what they're hearing about it from our patients. So Dr. Russell, any closing comments?
No, I just want to, I just want to thank you, Mo. Sorry, Deputy Pratt. I just want to thank you so much
Fine, sure.
For this, because it's, you know, we can never predict what the scam is going to be, but to know that there's protections, that there's people we can call for help. I think it would be great if we get that ic3.gov sent out in the email to folks, and also the instructions about, yes, if you think you've been the victim of a scam, call your local police department. Because they can be very helpful. So these are the lessons I took away, because I imagine if I've been duped once, it's possible to be duped again, just in a different way, hopefully. And with that, I just want to wish everybody a nice work week, rest of the work week and weekend, and just remind folks, please, if you're not drinking your 8 glasses of water a day, unless someone's told you not to, please stay hydrated, schedule it. Remind yourself to drink and stay cool. All right.
Thank you. Thank you,
care.
Deputy Pratt. This was really informative.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Thank you very much for inviting me.
All right. Take
Okay,
care,
thank you.
everybody.
Bye,
Have a
folks.
great
I wish you all
Memorial
the
Day.
best.
Oh, that's right.
Bye.
A happy holiday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Bye-bye.